My name is Naomi Keaton. I'm 34 years old, and 3 weeks ago, I found the second phone that ended my marriage. If this were a movie, the scene would probably open on some dramatic storm outside a window, lightning cracking in the distance while I stare at a glowing screen in the dark. But real life isn't that stylish. In reality, it was a Tuesday afternoon in bright Arizona sun, my hair still smelling like recycled airplane air, my suitcase half unpacked on the bedroom floor. No thunder, just the soft hum of the AC and the sound of my own breathing getting louder and louder as I read 847 messages that turned my life into wreckage. Let me back up. I'm a commercial airline pilot for a major carrier. I've been flying for 8 years now, working my way up from cramped regional jets to the big metal birds everyone recognizes. The schedule is demanding. 3 to 4 days gone at a time, sometimes more during busy season, but the pay is good. 6 figures, benefits, the whole package. I worked my ass off for that life. Long nights studying checklists, early morning flights, holidays spent in unfamiliar cities instead of at home. It paid off. I own a 4-bedroom house in the suburbs, have a paid-off truck, and a decent, steadily growing retirement account. I'm not saying this to brag. I'm just setting the stage. I built something solid, reliable, stable. At least that's what I thought. My husband Liam is 32. We've been married for 6 years, together for 9. We met at a friend's wedding. I was a bridesmaid, he was a groomsman. I remember standing in a rented dress and painful heels, watching him make the entire table laugh with some ridiculous story about getting lost in Rome. He was charming, handsome, that easy kind of funny that makes everyone feel relaxed. I'd just started flying commercially then, still nervous, still double-checking every decision. He felt like the opposite of that, spontaneous, light, unbothered by turbulence. We hit it off. 3 years of dating, then he proposed on the beach in Maui at sunset. Classic cliché, the kind of thing you'd see in a travel brochure. He dropped to one knee in the sand. My hair was a mess from the wind, and when he opened the ring box, I forgot every pilot checklist I'd ever memorized. I said yes, obviously. I thought I'd just landed the perfect combination, my dream career and a man who loved me. When we first met, Liam worked as a pharmaceutical sales rep. Good money, company car, endless dinners with doctors. About 2 years into our marriage, he started complaining that the corporate grind was killing his soul. He wanted to follow his passion for fitness. He'd always been fit, into lifting and meal prepping, but suddenly it was all he talked about. I was the supportive wife. That's what I told myself anyway. Quit, I said. Get certified. I can cover things while you build it up. And I did. My pilot salary paid the mortgage, the utilities, the groceries, the trips, and his certification courses. He started training clients at a local gym, and for a while he looked genuinely happy. Less stressed, more alive. I told myself it was worth it. Of course, my flying schedule didn't change. I was still gone 4 days at a time. Red eyes, cross-country trips, back-to-back legs across time zones. When I was home, I wanted peace, rest, normalcy. Liam said he understood. He said he was proud of me. Looking back, I think he was thrilled I was gone so much. More time for his side activities. Our house is in my name only. I bought it 2 years before I even met Liam, with my savings and a veteran's loan, benefit my dad had pushed me to use. My dad survived a nasty divorce in his 30s. Growing up, I heard his mantra more than bedtime stories. Naomi, protect your assets before you need to. So I kept the deed in my name. When Liam moved in after the wedding, nothing changed on paper. We opened a joint checking account for shared expenses, groceries, date nights, utilities, but my main savings and investment accounts stayed separate. Call it paranoia, call it preparation. At the time, it just felt like being prudent. Later, it would turn out to be the smartest decision I ever made. The gym obsession started about 18 months ago. Liam had always liked working out, but now it became his entire identity. Gym at 5 a.m., clients all day, sometimes networking events or fitness conferences on weekends. He posted progress photos and motivational quotes on Instagram, filmed little clips between sets, tagged the gym and other trainers. And that's when I first saw her name. Jade, late 20s, personal trainer, lean and sculpted in that impossible way that looks CGI in photos. In captions, she was mentor, coach, the one who believed in his dreams when corporate didn't. He told me they'd dated briefly years before, but it was nothing, and they were just friends now. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? I was flying 10-hour legs, checking METARs and NOTAMs, trusting that when I came home, my little world was intact. About 6 months ago, I noticed his phone habits changing. He'd always been on his phone a lot. Clients, Instagram, scheduling. But now, if I walked into the room, he'd flip it face down. If I reached for it to show him a meme, he'd practically snatch it back like I'd grabbed his oxygen mask mid-flight. Once, his phone rang while he was in the shower. I walked over to check, thinking it might be an early client. I saw Jade, PT, on the screen. Before I could even decide whether to answer, he was out of the bathroom, dripping water on the tiles, hand outstretched. "I'll get it," he snapped, more sharply than the situation demanded. I laughed it off. "Okay, chill. I was just going to see who it was." "Client stuff," he said, turning his body so I couldn't see the screen. "You know, privacy." The words were plausible. The way he said them wasn't. On a layover in Denver, I mentioned it to my friend Tristan, another pilot. We were sitting in some generic airport restaurant, still in uniform, nursing bad coffee and worse salads. "Dude, that's a massive red flag," he said. "My ex did the exact same thing before I found out she was screwing her manager." I rolled my eyes. "Liam's not like that. He's just guarding client conversations." Tristan gave me this look pilots give when they know you're ignoring turbulent clouds on the radar. "I hope you're right," he said, "but secrets plus new mentor is a nasty combo." I brushed it off, but his words lodged in my brain like a splinter. 3 weeks ago, on that Tuesday, I landed after a 4-day sequence. LA, Seattle, Denver, back home. I was bone tired. All I wanted was a scalding shower and my own bed. Liam had left at 5 a.m. for the gym, like always. I couldn't find my wireless headphones, not in my nightstand, not in my flight bag, not on the kitchen counter. Then I remembered Liam borrowed them sometimes. His gym bag was in our bedroom closet, sitting neatly next to his running shoes. I pulled it out, unzipped the main compartment, and rummaged through sweat-soaked clothes, protein bars, and a water bottle. No headphones. I checked the side pocket. That's where I found it. A second phone. Not his regular smartphone with the cracked corner and the navy case. This was an older Android in a plain black cover. For a moment, I thought it might be an old backup he'd forgotten about. Then I pressed the power button. No lock screen, no PIN. It opened right into a messaging app I didn't recognize. At the very top of the conversation list, Jade, PT 847 unread messages. My hands started to shake. I tapped the thread. The most recent message glared up at me. Jade, can't wait to see you tonight. Last night was insane. You're unreal. My stomach dropped like I'd hit sudden wake turbulence at 35,000 feet. I scrolled up a little. Liam. Heh. I'm telling myself this is the last time, but I already know if you text, I'll end up in your bed again. Liam. Naomi's gone until Thursday. We've got the whole week. Jade. She has no clue, does she? You're way too good at this. I dropped the phone. I barely made it to the bathroom before I threw up, hands braced on the cold sink, every muscle shaking. My heart pounded so hard I could see my pulse in my neck. I splashed water on my face and stared at myself in the mirror. Pilot uniform half unbuttoned, mascara smudged from the long day, eyes wide and wild. This can't be real, I whispered. No, no, no. But the phone was still on the bedroom floor. I walked back, picked it up, and sat down on the edge of our bed. The bed where we'd made plans and promises. The bed where he'd apparently brought her. For one insane second, I considered putting the phone back in his bag, zipping it up, and pretending I'd never seen it. Ignorance is safe. Ignorance is quiet. But pilots don't fly blind on purpose. We don't turn off alarms because they're inconvenient. I opened the thread again and scrolled, all the way up. The messages went back 11 months. At the beginning, it looked like professional banter, training tips, programming advice, inside jokes about clients. Then came flirting. Compliments, late-night you-up check-ins. There was a message about the first time they accidentally hooked up after a late session at her apartment. I watched my marriage disintegrate line by line like a plane breaking apart in slow motion. 2, sometimes 3 times a week, they met. When I was out on trips, he went straight from last client to Jade's place. When I thought he was at some weekend seminar, he was in a hotel room with her, sending me staged pictures from lobbies and conference halls. They had my flight schedule memorized better than I did. The messages were explicit enough to make my cheeks burn, even though I was alone in my own house. But the sex wasn't the worst part. The worst part was everything he said about me. She's boring, always tired. Our relationship has no passion. She's never home. I feel like I'm married to a plane, not a person. She watches every dollar, like she doesn't trust me with anything. He mocked the Maui proposal, called it cheesy as hell, and said he'd said yes because the ring was nice and he figured I'd be a good provider. My chest actually hurt reading that, like someone had reached in and squeezed my heart in their fist. Then I hit the financial planning messages. Liam, I've been trying to get her to put my name on the deed. If I play the long game, I can walk with half when I finally bounce. Jade, exactly. Heh. Let her pay the bills and you build with me on the side. Liam, she's so careful with money though. Keeps everything separate. It's like she doesn't trust me. Jade, fake the loving husband thing. Cry if you have to. Talk about building a future together. They always cave eventually. They weren't just cheating. They were plotting to rob me. I tied messages to specific memories. A concert I'd surprised him with? There was a text to Jade afterwards. She bought tickets to make up for how absent she is. I faked being excited. Might as well enjoy it while I still have her money. Our anniversary staycation? He'd left our bed to text Jade from the bathroom, telling her our night had been meh, and he wished he were with her instead. By the time I reached the messages from that very morning, I was numb. Jade, morning, handsome. Can't wait for tonight. She landing today? Liam, yeah, she lands around noon, but she'll be wiped out. I'll tell her I've got a client late tonight. I'll be at yours by 8. Jade, wine's ready, and your favorite sheets. I looked at the clock. It was 12:43 p.m. He was planning to spend tonight with her, in her bed, while I slept in the bed we'd bought together, in the house my father had warned me to shield. Something inside me snapped, not in a screaming, throwing things way, more like a switch flipping in a cockpit. Panic gets you killed at 35,000 feet. You don't have the luxury of falling apart when something goes wrong. You assess, you decide, you act. Emotions come later, after you've landed. I put the phone down, took 3 slow breaths, then picked it up again with steady hands. Checklist mode. First item, evidence. I photographed everything. Every compromising message, every date, every reference to my schedule, every line where they talked about the house and taking half. I screenshotted the mapping feature that showed dozens of pins at Jade's address when he was supposedly at the gym late. The photo gallery held even more. Selfies of them in my house, in our kitchen, in our bedroom. One shot of them, under the framed wedding photo above our bed, nearly sent me back to the bathroom. I didn't cry. I didn't even shake. I just kept documenting. I uploaded everything to a secure cloud account under a new password. Then I checked the email app. Hotel confirmations, weekend conferences that were actually rendezvous locations, a shared calendar color-coded around my flight schedule. By the time I was done, I had enough to bury him in court. Next checklist item, call Mitchell. I'd met Mitchell Brooks years ago through my dad when he updated his will. Ex-military, mid-50s, the kind of lawyer who doesn't waste time on hand-holding. We'd grabbed coffee a couple of times since then. He always told me, half joking, if you ever need me, I'll bring the big guns. I dialed his number. Brooks, he answered. It's Naomi, I said. My voice sounded weirdly calm in my own ears. I need to file for divorce immediately, and I need it done right. There was a pause. What happened? Found a burner phone in his gym bag. 847 messages with his ex, who's now his trainer. Nearly a year of cheating. They've documented everything. Photos, hotel receipts, plans to get his name on my house so he can walk with half when he leaves. Mitchell exhaled slowly. How solid is your evidence? Screenshots of all messages, GPS data, receipts, photos in my house, shared calendar. It's all there. That's not just solid, he said. That's titanium. When does he get home? Usually around 7, after his last client. I can be at your place with my paralegal by 6:30. We'll have the petition ready and serve him the moment he walks in. The element of surprise is your best friend here. He won't have time to move money or spin a story. Can we really move that fast? With evidence like that, we'd be stupid not to. We discussed finances quickly. House in my name, separate accounts, small joint checking. Mitchell told me not to touch a thing financially, except to pull exactly half the joint account, so he couldn't accuse me of hiding or draining funds. Last thing, he said, when he walks in, you stay calm. No screaming, no throwing things, no letting him drag you into a fight he can later twist. I'll do the talking. You eat your dinner. Understood? Yes, I said, and I meant it. After we hung up, I moved like a ghost through my own house. I checked our joint account, saw a balance a little over $3,000. I transferred exactly half, down to the 50 cents, to my personal account and left the rest untouched. Then I walked through each room with my phone, documenting furniture, appliances, artwork, making a digital inventory of what was here before Liam ever set foot inside. By 6:30, Chinese takeout containers covered the kitchen table. Mitchell and his paralegal, Diane, sat across from me with a neat stack of documents. From the outside, we looked like coworkers having a late working dinner. From the inside, I was waiting for my husband to walk into an ambush he'd built with his own hands. At 6:52 p.m., I heard his key in the lock. My heart rate ticked up like an altimeter climbing fast. I didn't move. I twirled noodles around my chopsticks and took a bite. The front door opened. His footsteps approached. He was laughing at something on his phone, gym bag slung over his shoulder. He stepped into the kitchen, saw Mitchell and Diane, and froze. What's going on?" he asked. His eyes bounced from the papers, to Mitchell, to me. "Naomi?" I swallowed, dabbed my mouth with a napkin, and finally looked up. "Liam," I said softly, "this is my lawyer." His face went pale. "You're what?" "Your divorce attorney," Mitchell said, standing with the easy, practiced confidence of someone who's done this 100 times. "I'm representing your wife. My colleague Diane is here to serve you with the paperwork." Liam's gym bag slipped from his shoulder and hit the floor with a dull thud. "Divorce?" he repeated, like he'd never heard the word before. "What are you talking about? Naomi, what is this?" I picked up my chopsticks again. "I found your second phone in your gym bag," I said quietly. "The black Android in the side pocket. I read all 847 messages between you and Jade. I saw the hotel receipts, the photos, the GPS logs, the conversations about getting your name on my deed so you could walk away with half." Diane stepped forward, holding out a manila envelope. "Liam Keaton," she said in a clear, professional voice, "you're being served with a petition for dissolution of marriage." He didn't take it. He just stared at me like I'd taken the controls from him mid-flight. "You've been cheating on a pilot," I thought. "You really didn't expect her to know how to land this?" He didn't take the envelope. He just stared at me like I'd started speaking a language he'd never heard before. "Naomi," he said slowly, carefully, like he was testing the air for danger. I don't know what you think you found, but this is insane. A divorce lawyer? For what? For some texts with a friend?" Mitchell didn't miss a beat. "Mr. Keaton," he said, still holding out his hand with professional politeness, "this petition is being served whether or not you physically accept it, but I do recommend you take these documents and read them thoroughly." Diane extended the envelope a little closer. Liam flinched like it might bite him. "I don't have a second phone," he snapped. "I don't even know what she's talking about." "The black Android," I repeated calmly. "Side pocket of your gym bag. Messaging app with Jade's name at the top. 847 messages over 11 months. Do you really want to stand here and pretend I hallucinated all that?" His eyes flicked toward the gym bag on the floor like it had betrayed him. A tiny telling movement. Mitchell clocked it. So did I. "In any case," Mitchell said, tone still mild, "you'll find the grounds for divorce clearly outlined in the petition, along with reference to the documentation your wife provided. Adultery, financial misconduct, and attempted fraud regarding marital assets." Liam's gaze snapped to him. "Fraud? Are you kidding me? I haven't stolen anything. I haven't—" "You don't have to steal something for it to be fraud," I said. "You just have to plan it, which you did, with Jade, repeatedly." The kitchen went so quiet I could hear the AC kick on. I set my chopsticks down and folded my hands in front of me, like we were in a conference room instead of my own home. "You told her," I continued, keeping my voice level, "if I play the long game and get my name on the deed, I can walk with half when I bounce. You called me a perfect provider. You laughed about how careful I was with money and how you'd use it anyway. Do you want me to keep going, or do you remember your own words?" His mouth opened and closed. "Naomi, you're taking things out of context," he finally managed. "We were just venting. You're gone all the time. You're always exhausted. You treat money like it's a bomb. I needed someone to talk to." "So you talked to your ex-girlfriend," I said. "In her bed, in hotel rooms I paid for, using money from our joint account, while planning how to take the house I bought before I even knew you existed." His face twisted. "Nothing happened in hotel rooms you paid for. Those were conferences, work stuff. You saw the brochures." "I saw the confirmation emails on your burner phone," I cut in. "I saw the selfies you took in bed with her, in those rooms. I saw you send them to her with captions like, 'Way better than sitting through boring lectures.'" The color drained from his face. Diane, to her credit, didn't flinch. She just held the envelope out patiently, like she'd done this 100 times. Eventually, Liam snatched it from her hand. Papers rustled as he flipped through, eyes racing over legal language he clearly didn't understand. "What is this?" he muttered. "No spousal support. You're asking for the house? I've lived here for 6 years." Mitchell answered before I could. "This house," he said, "is Naomi's separate property, purchased 2 years before your marriage, using her funds and a veteran's benefit. Under Arizona law, it remains her separate property. You have no claim to it. Your wife is also seeking to divide the limited joint assets equitably while factoring in your misuse of shared funds to subsidize your affair." Liam looked up, eyes wild. "You're really doing this," he said to me, like it had just hit him that this wasn't a theatrical stunt. "You're really throwing away our marriage over some texts?" I stared at him. "It's not some texts," I said. "It's almost a year of lying. It's you memorizing my flight schedule so you'd know exactly when to crawl into bed with her. It's you using my salary as your affair fund. It's you turning our marriage into a waiting room until you decided the payout was worth the exit." He shook his head. Tears welled up in his eyes. If I hadn't read all those messages earlier, that might have worked. "Naomi, please, I messed up, okay? I messed up, but we can fix this. We can go to therapy, we can—" "No," I said. One word, the quietest one I'd spoken all day, also the heaviest. Mitchell cleared his throat, bringing us back to the checklist. "Mr. Keaton," he said, "from this point forward, I strongly advise you to obtain your own legal counsel. Any further communication regarding the divorce should go through attorneys. Tonight, Naomi has graciously agreed to let you remain here. However," he glanced at me, and I nodded, "she is giving you until tomorrow at 8 p.m. to remove your personal belongings from the property." Liam blinked. "You're kicking me out? Just like that?" "This is my house," I said, "legally and literally. You chose to use it as home base for your affair. You don't get to keep enjoying the perks." "That's barely 24 hours, he protested, anger finally bubbling up through the panic. "Where am I supposed to go?" "You're an adult," I said. "You'll figure it out. Call your mom. Call a friend. Call Jade." His jaw clenched at her name. "That's cruel," he spat. "I gave up my job for you. I followed my passion because you told me to, and now you're just done? Over one mistake?" "It wasn't one mistake," I said. "It was 847 of them. That I know of. You didn't trip and fall into her bed by accident. You didn't accidentally tell her you'd bleed me for half this house. Those were choices." He opened his mouth again, but Mitchell stepped in. "I think this is a good stopping point for tonight," he said firmly. "Liam, you've been served. You're aware of the timeline. Naomi, we'll connect tomorrow to finalize the emergency motions and asset freezes." He shook my hand, nodded politely at Liam, and left with Diane. The door closed behind them. The house suddenly felt bigger and emptier, like the air pressure had dropped. Liam dropped into a chair and buried his face in his hands. "Naomi, please," he said, voice cracking. "Don't do this. Don't throw away 9 years." I looked at him. Really looked at him. The man I'd once trusted with my whole future now looked like a stranger who'd sneaked into my kitchen. "You threw it away 11 months ago," I said. "I'm just filing the paperwork." I stood, gathered my half-eaten takeout, and dumped it in the trash. Appetite gone. Then I turned back to him. "You have until tomorrow at 8, I repeated. "Whatever you don't pack by then stays. I'm changing the locks after that." His eyes widened. "You can't just—" "I can," I said. "And I will." I went upstairs and shut the door to the guest room, locking it even though I knew it was symbolic. Downstairs, I heard him pacing, making frantic phone calls. I didn't care any more what story he was spinning. Betrayers always cast themselves as the victim in their first draft. Sleep didn't come easily. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw a flash of one of those screenshots. His words about my perfect provider salary, her laughing emojis, the little heart reactions on jokes about me being too busy flying metal tubes to notice. But underneath the nausea, there was a strange, cold clarity. The plane was already broken. I was just steering the wreckage into the least destructive landing. The next morning, I called in and requested 3 days of personal leave for a family emergency. My chief pilot didn't pry. 8 years of spotless attendance buys you a little grace. When I walked downstairs, Liam was gone. The gym bag, the burner phone, and some clothes were missing. A few of his sneakers were still by the door, like he'd left in a hurry and forgot he'd never be coming home in the same way again. I spent the morning doing something that felt like grief and cleaning Had a Baby, packing his things. I went through our closet, pulling out shirts I knew he'd brought into the marriage, the old hoodie from his college team, The jeans I'd always hated but never mentioned. His drawer in the bathroom. Cologne. Beard trimmer. The hair product he swore was life-changing. Each item went into cardboard boxes. I wrote his name on them with a black marker. Liam. Every time the marker squeaked against the cardboard, it sounded like a line being drawn. In the back of the closet, behind a stack of my old flight manuals, I found a shoebox. Inside, crumpled receipts, expensive restaurants, bar tabs, hotel charges that lined up perfectly with some of those conference weekends, all charged to our joint account. I didn't cry. I took photos, logged the dates, sent them to Mitchell with a short note. More fuel for the fire. By early afternoon, the living room was a maze of labeled boxes. Around 3 p.m., a U-Haul pulled up out front. I watched from the kitchen window as Liam climbed out of the passenger seat. His mother, Carol, got out on the driver's side. Of course, Carol had never really liked me. She'd always seen Liam as her golden boy and me as the career-obsessed wife who kept stealing him away on those trips. I braced myself. The doorbell rang. I opened the door, and there she was, lips pressed tight, eyes already brimming with judgment. "We need to talk about this," Carol said, stepping inside like she still had that right. She looked around at the boxes. "What in the world do you think you're doing, Naomi?" "Packing," I said. "You've come at the perfect time. His stuff is ready." Liam hovered in the doorway, hands in his pockets, gaze fixed somewhere near my feet. "This is ridiculous," Carol snapped. "Marriages go through rough patches. You don't just throw your husband out like trash because your feelings got hurt." Ah, there it was. The script. I leaned against the banister, folded my arms, and decided not to raise my voice. Calm pilots get listened to. Screaming passengers don't. "Carol," I said, "your son didn't have a rough patch. He had an affair with his ex-girlfriend for almost a year. He used my money to pay for it, and he and Jade spent months planning how to get his name on my house so he could take half when he left." Her face spasmed. She glanced at Liam. "That's not true," he muttered. "She's twisting—" "I have screenshots," I said quietly. "Would you like to see them?" Carol hesitated. In that pause, I saw something crack in her certainty. For the first time, doubt. "What screenshots?" she asked, voice a little smaller. "The 847 messages on his second phone," I said. "The photos, the receipts, the GPS logs, the emails confirming hotel rooms under his name on weekends he told me he was at conferences." I held up my phone and flicked to the folder. "I can airplay them to the TV if you'd like a slideshow," I added. "But we'll need a lot of popcorn. It's a long story." "Don't!" Liam hissed. He stepped forward, reaching for my phone. "Naomi, this is between us. Don't drag her into it." "Why not?" I asked. "You dragged her into everything else. Might as well let her see the director's cut." He stopped in front of me, close enough that I could smell the familiar mix of his cologne and gym sweat. Once, that had been comforting. Now it just smelled like contamination. "Please," he said under his breath, "don't humiliate me in front of my mom." There it was, the thing he feared more than losing me. Being seen as the villain by the person who'd always cast him as the hero. "Humiliation is a side effect of your own actions," I said. "Not my honesty." Carol looked between us, eyes flicking back and forth like she was watching a tennis match. "Liam," she said slowly, "is any of this true?" He swallowed. His jaw worked. He didn't answer. Silence can be louder than confession. "It's bad," I said softly, breaking the tension. "Bad enough that his lawyer will probably tell him the same thing mine did. Settle quickly and quietly. Because if this goes to court, every line becomes public." Carol's eyes filled with tears. Not for me, of course, for her son. But even that, in a weird way, felt like justice. She was finally seeing even a fraction of what he'd done. "Just help me get my stuff," Liam muttered. "Please." They moved through the house then, grabbing boxes, carrying them out to the truck. I watched carefully to make sure they took only what I'd packed, only what was clearly his. At one point, Carol reached for a framed photo of us from Maui, the one from the night he proposed. It had been sitting on the hallway table for years. "That stays," I said quietly. She frowned. "But it's both of you." "It was bought before we married," I replied. "My trip, my frame, my memory. He can leave that one behind." She set it down like it had burned her fingers. By 7 p.m., most of the boxes were loaded. The house already felt lighter, like it had exhaled something toxic. Liam came back inside for a final look, hands on his hips, eyes gliding over the walls like he was memorizing them. "What about the gym membership?" he asked, voice small again. "It's under your account. I can't lose access. It's where my clients are. You can't just cut it off." I almost laughed. You mean the gym where you met Jade? I asked. Where you spent a year building your affair while I was in the air, paying the membership fee? Yeah, I can. I already sent an email. The family plan's canceled effective the end of the month. You can open your own membership, or ask Jade to add you to hers. Oh, wait, she might be busy talking to HR soon. He stared at me like he'd just realized I was willing to press more than one button. And my car insurance, you raise? He pressed. We're bundled on your policy. I can't afford full rate right now. You've got until the end of the month, I said. After that, you're on your own. Maybe next time you're about to cheat on the person subsidizing your life, you'll think about things like that. He flinched. You're really going to be like this? He asked. This cold? I thought of the screenshots, the jokes at my expense, the hotel beds, the plans to bounce with half. Yes, I said, I really am. He picked up the last box and walked to the door without another word. Carol followed, pausing in the frame. I don't know what to say, she whispered. I never thought. Neither did I replied, but here we are. I closed the door behind them and turned the lock. The house was utterly quiet. For the first time in a long time, it was mine, just mine. I leaned my back against the door, slid down until I was sitting on the entryway rug, and let out a long, shaky breath. Not a sob, not a breakdown. Just the sound of a pilot who had finally landed the plane, staring at the wreckage and thinking, okay, now what? The silence after the U-Haul pulled away felt unreal, like someone had unplugged the world. No footsteps, no humming from Liam as he microwaved leftovers, no clatter of gym bottles or motivational rise and grind alarms. Just stillness. Stillness and the faint scent of his cologne lingering in the hallway. I walked through the house slowly, touching the back of the couch, the edge of the counter, the banister, like I had to reacquaint myself with a home that had always been mine, but had slowly been polluted by someone else's secrets. That night, I slept in the master bedroom alone for the first time since discovering the second phone. I changed the sheets, twice, washed the pillowcases, scrubbed the mattress. Not because the smell lingered, but because the betrayal did. It wasn't rage, it wasn't devastation. It was something colder, something cleaner. A reset. The divorce filing, speedrun mode. The next morning, Mitchell and I met again to finalize emergency motions. He was efficient, ruthless, and reassuring in a very lawyerly way. I've seen a lot of cases, he said, sliding a stack of papers toward me. This one, clean cut, fast. You've already done 90% of the work by gathering airtight evidence. The judge granted the temporary order to freeze access to any financial accounts with my name on them, preventing Liam from draining or opening anything jointly. Our joint checking account had barely $1,600 left, his half, but Mitchell still filed the paperwork to prevent creative withdrawals. Liam hired a lawyer within a week, or rather, his mother hired one. I could tell from the tone of the emails his attorney sent, overly formal, overly concerned about Liam's financial vulnerability, and carefully dancing around the fact that his client had been caught orchestrating a long-term affair and attempted financial ambush. The first communication from Liam's side wasn't even a defense. It was a plea for grace, cooperation, and fairness during a difficult time. Mitchell laughed out loud when he read it. That, he said, is the email of a lawyer who has seen your evidence. What they tried, and how fast it collapsed. Over the following 3 weeks, Liam's attorney attempted 3 strategies. None lasted more than an hour. 1. He deserves a portion of the home's equity. Mitchell shut that down in 3 sentences. The home is separate property, purchased before marriage. Appreciation of separate property remains separate under Arizona law. Would you like the receipts, the deed, and the timestamps? Silence. 2. He needs spousal support to maintain the lifestyle he became accustomed to. Mitchell tapped the folder containing screenshots of every degrading comment Liam made about me. Your client used marital funds to subsidize his affair with his ex-girlfriend for nearly a year. That disqualifies him from support on both moral and legal grounds. I can quote the statute. Silence again. 3. Perhaps we resolve this quickly to avoid court. Translation. Liam had no defense, and they knew it. By week 3, Liam's lawyer requested a private meeting with Mitchell. Not a mediation, not a negotiation, a surrender. The final settlement. It's funny how small a lifetime becomes when reduced to legal bullet points. The settlement was swift. Liam received half of the remaining joint checking balance, $1,600. He kept his car. He kept his clothes, personal electronics, and belongings. And that was it. I kept the house, my retirement accounts, my savings and investments, my truck, all separate property, control over every remaining asset, my future, no spousal support, no alimony. no ongoing connection. A perfectly clean break. Liam signed without even reading the full packet. His lawyer had clearly told him the alternative. If we took this to trial, all 847 messages, including the jokes about my pilot schedule and the plan to walk with half once he got on the deed, would become part of public record. He folded like damp paper. The divorce was finalized exactly 8 weeks after I found the phone in his gym bag. Record time. Fallout for Jade and Liam. I didn't care what happened to either of them. But people talk. And pilots, well, we travel, we hear things. A friend who still went to the same gym sent me a message one night. "Is this your Liam?" Followed by a screenshot. Trainer terminated due to multiple violations of client-trainer boundaries. Not just Jade. Apparently, Jade and Liam weren't the gym's first ethically questionable duo. Management had been suspicious for months, but they didn't have proof until they received an anonymous email containing screenshots of their affair. An email that came from a fresh burner address, with no traceable metadata. Very professional. Not revenge, just closure. Jade was fired first. Liam followed within a week. Their relationship, propped up by secrecy and adrenaline, crumbled once reality stepped in. He blamed her for getting him fired. She blamed him for getting sloppy. They stopped seeing each other shortly after. Jade moved to a different state. Liam moved back into Carol's house. The gym scrubbed all mention of both from their website. Aftermath. Rebuilding with quiet, steady hands. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, Tristan invited me out for dinner. "You look lighter," he said after we ordered, "like a plane that dropped half its dead weight." I laughed. It felt good, real, not forced. "I just feel clear," I admitted, like the fog finally burned off. He nodded. "Losing 6 years sucks, but you could have lost 20. You could have had kids with him. You could have been deeper in before the crash." He wasn't wrong. I picked up extra flight sequences and poured myself into the rhythm I knew best. Pre-flight checks, clearances, takeoffs, landings, sunrises from 30,000 feet. Home was peaceful, quiet, mine. No secret phones, no lies, no waiting for someone to return from a gym session with deceit still clinging to their skin. Just a pilot learning how to move forward without turbulence. Epilogue. Landing the final time. Sometimes people ask me if I regret reading all those messages. If ignorance would have been easier. Maybe, for a moment, for a week, but not for a lifetime. When you're flying and something goes wrong, you don't look away from the warning lights. You face them. You fix what can be fixed and eject what can't. My marriage had been losing altitude for nearly a year. Quietly, secretly, invisibly. Finding that second phone didn't break it. It just revealed the truth. And once you see something clearly, you can't unsee it. Walk away and never board it again.